In this video, we're going to go over a summary of everything that we've talked about as it relates to modeling entity relationship diagrams. So in this model, we have several key components that we've already discussed. We have entities such as skill represented here. We have associative entities such as employee skill that has rounded corners. We have an entity type, which is basically the name of the entity itself. So in this case, employee. We have attributes, which are going to be characteristics that describe a specific entity. So in this case, we have a product line ID and name as attributes of product line. Then we have identifiers, which are also attributes. So in Work Center, the identifier is Work Center ID, which indicates that the value for this identifier is going to be unique for every single row in that entity. We have composite attributes, which have multiple component attributes, such as location here, with street, city, state, and zip code making up the composite attribute. We have optional attributes indicated by the O in parentheses. We have relationships, which indicate how many instances of one entity is associated with how many instances of another entity. We have unary relationships, which are entities that have relationships with themselves. And then we have the four different types of cardinality. We have optional 1, which means an entity has a relationship with 0 to 1 instances of another entity. We have mandatory 1, which means that an entity has a relationship with 1 and only 1 instance of another entity. We have optional many, which means that an entity has a relationship with 0 to many instances of another entity. And then we have mandatory many, which means that an entity has a relationship with 1 to many instances of another entity. So summary steps for building entities. First thing we're going to do is identify all the nouns that exist and create our entities. So in this case, customer, order, product, and employee. The next step is to identify the attributes as they relate to each one of these entities. So here are all the different attributes. Then we have identifiers, which are going to be the unique attributes for each one of these entities that are going to identify every single row in that entity. So customer ID and customer, order ID and order, product ID and product, and employee ID and employee. Next, we're going to specify the relationships. So a customer places an order contains products, and an employee sells orders. Then we're going to identify the cardinalities, and here are the different types of cardinality. So a customer places one to many orders, an order is placed by one and only one customer. An order contains one to many products, a product is on 0 to many orders. An employee sells 0 to many orders, and an order is sold by 0 to 1 employees. The final thing that we're going to do is identify the associative entities. So because we have a many-to-many relationship between order and product, what we're going to do is slap that associative entity in the middle, take the original cardinalities that would exist in that relationship and map them to the new entity, in this case order line, and any attributes that were part of the relationship in and of itself are going to become attributes of this new associative entity, in this case quantity.